Hi, everybody. Welcome to The New Normal. I'm your host, Lisa Davis, aka Litecoin Lisa. And today we have your buddy and mine, Skullcap SaVant, bringing us VSTEG in the news. We're going to revisit the topic of the bridge crash. And it's quite interesting. We're also going to be talking about some of the VSTEG surrounding the time warp that we are living in, and have some interesting stuff about that. Uncle Cliff, of course, was tweeting about that, and the Terrence McKenna video, what a weird and wacky world we're living in. So join us in the live chat if you can. If you're visiting this later, please leave us a comment below. Let us know what you think about all this and what your feedback, what time warp are you living in? And, very interesting to see the media being exposed with all of their lies and complicitness. Is that a word? Complicitness? I don't know. I'm sure my mother will let me know because I think she's in the live chat. So be right back with Skullcap right after this. Give us a like and share the video. Welcome back, Ben. Good to have you.
It's good to be back. I'm glad that you're feeling better this week.
I am.
I missed you last week. These shows are like one of the highlights of my week now because I don't have time to do these long form 3-hour videos that I used to be able to fit into my calendar. So it gives me my fix and gives everybody else hopefully their VSTEG fix.
I enjoy it as well. I really do. I know we have a little chat going with some friends and try to shoot things as they happen. IRL, if you call this real life anymore, I don't know. I don't know if we're unpacking the movie or untangling from the movie and moving into real life, or I don't know what's happening anymore.
Well, I guess like this is kind of the whole emphasis of like the Truman Show, but everybody is a Truman character in the Truman Show. Almost, it's like instead of just one person in their little town, it's all the normies in the little town.
Yeah,
and it's like we're the minority instead of just one person being the one that the butt end of the joke is based around. So it's bizarre and
it's exciting and empowering if you will take control of it yourself. So like one of the most telling recent things for me was, and it's the decoupling of the sides, the polarization of right versus left kind of thing. When Sean Ryan and Tucker Carlson did an interview a night or two ago, and Mom and I sat down and watched it last night, and right at the gate, Sean Ryan, he says, well, right when he goes, Dan Bongino's a friend of mine. And, when now that we've been told, Epstein did kill himself. And it's like, wait a minute. We all thought, Dan Bongino, the good guy, the guy on the right, Trump's guy, is going to get in there and fix the FBI. Kash Patel is going to get in there, and Dan Bongino is going to be his number 2, and they're going to fix the FBI. And instead, they just got in and buckled up and doubled down, and we all just went, "What?"
Yeah. Huh? You want to know if there's a bait and switch going on, and just like the Bondi thing, it always kind of does boil down to something quite simple in the Israeli asset department. When you start looking at who's influenced by the state of Israel, it really does start to put things into stark relief, which makes you wonder if that's why things are being happening the way they are. Is it allowed to happen this way so that by repetition, we just see, hopefully, as a population, that Israeli asset category start to pile up to where it's undeniable now, where people can't just shove it off to the side and say, oh no, that couldn't possibly be the case, you know?
But is it more about making a list of names or showing that the entity is corrupt itself? That
Yeah.
like that this system is broken, and we have to stop looking to a system to fix something for we the people. We have to stop giving it our attention. We have to
Right.
stop saying like, oh, the government is here to save us, you know?
Right. Because you got to believe these are just figureheads, the named ones, the Patels and the Bonginos, they're the ones in the news, but it's not like when the new administration comes in, they wipe out all of the other FBI personnel that were in there before. And you have even things coming out like from today, I think it was today, where Trump announced that, or it wasn't even Trump, I think it was his press secretary, was talking about there potentially being people paying for use of the auto pen, and it's a whole long list of people that were using the auto pen. So what kind of private special interest groups were paying what kind of money? Was it USAID even that they were laundering this stuff through so they could use the auto pen and just create laws into existence that benefited their parties and entities? Who knows? But you have to wonder. You do. So hopefully, by way of the current events and the popular things that cause all the emotional outbursts, which is really where some of the steganography has a tendency to focus in anyway, because it's the stuff that is cast into the mindset and the memes into the news that gives us clues as to what the popular opinions being guided toward. Maybe we'll find out. Like the Q stuff sure is lining up with certainty in a way that I had kind of written off myself for the certainty aspect of it. I mean, not that I ever thought that there wasn't validity to most of it, but people who've seen my work know that I'm of the mind that once Q was taken over for the first time with the trip code change, I think you stop trusting hook, line, and sinker all the things that the Q posts were saying, which, you know, gives you a good 8-9 months of solid posts to follow. And that's where all the meat is anyway, in my opinion. But
oh, see, I think a lot of the Q posts still validate a lot that's going on, even with, you know, we were just talking before we got started, that a lot of that stuff is resonating with the bridge things. There's a lot of things that I'm seeing that are lining up with that kind of stuff. But, you know, this is the thing where like no one's coming to save you. You have to make these decisions for yourself. And this is where the critical thinking comes in to me. And what I love seeing is this where media is being exposed, you know, with this crap with Biden, like we talked about right before we got started. Like, okay, we've all figured out that Biden's been, you know, 6'3" or something. He's also been 5'10". We've seen the mask. We've seen the Biden that looked like the guy from the 70s. We've seen this other Biden that looks like Jim Carrey. Like, so we've all agreed on that pretty much, that that's not who that is. But now all of a sudden, oh, clutch your pearls, he has cancer. Like, what? And now they've rolled out that Steve Bannon just did an interview today with somebody I can't remember off the top of my head, stating that in it's common knowledge now, open in the FBI files, that there are recordings on Hunter's laptop talking about discussing that when Biden was running the first time, talking about his concerns of his father having dementia the first time around.
And
so,
when was that? Was that like in the 80s? Is that what we're saying?
No, I'm sorry. The first time presidential. So the 20, oh God, what would that have been? My brain.
Because I was of the mind, I thought that he'd run when he was a much younger man in the 80s and just got wiped the floor with because all of the lies came out even then.
See, I don't even know about that.
Okay,
That's
but you're talking about more
possible.
recently than the 80s.
Yeah, the more recent one. You know, when the 2020 thing, you know. So, but when they were doing the whole Russia collusion and it's Hunter's laptop is a lie and the Jake Tapper bullshit, you know, and so that means the FBI knew. They all had knowledge of that. The family knew that. Let's all pretend that's Biden. That's the other thing.
Going on The View. Jill had just gone on The View before the cancer announcement, like 3 days prior. Joe is just fine.
Now,
they didn't see what he was doing.
That's Dr. Jill. That's
Right.
Dr. Jill. Remember, we have to treat her with respect. That's Dr. Jill.
Yeah.
I'm sure they don't want us calling her that now because, well, is there some kind of, responsibility if she's considered a doctor? I don't know.
Yeah, who knows? But it's funny you mentioned the Jake Tapper thing because I think this took the left media off guard a little bit. Because even Jon Stewart, Jon Stewart, the asset that he is for Israel, he even had to get on the Daily Show for his weekly Monday because he goes on and I think he anchors once a week. Don't quote me on that, but I think every Monday, Jon Stewart now goes on the Daily Show and anchors the show. And they even, with everything that happened with the health announcement over the weekend, it makes me wonder if that didn't catch that side of the media by surprise, because he even then had to go to the CNN side with Jake Tapper and kind of do this little cutesy bit about how he was making fun of the book that they kept pushing on CNN. Oh, wow. And it was kind of reminiscent of that kayfabe thing that we talked about months back, where we actually brought in the Daily Show clip, I think, to show that they were again caught by some sort of pants down moment where we're seeing between the lines a little bit. And so it's bizarre because that book that Tapper had was supposed to be the smoking gun, and it's coming out on the 25th. And they were pimping that for 2 months. And what about that now? What's even going to be in the book that isn't already known? Who knows?
Where's the accountability?
But, I do want to call the Steg part of the discussion into this before we get too far down the speculative realm of just, the current events that are loosely going out, almost what's that? The lotto machines, all the balls are kind of mixing around and they pulled one of them out. That's kind of how I figure current events are these days, where you just kind of have to put them into the top and see if they line up. But we did experience an odd event that was probably the biggest emotional outburst in a while. These days is only a week. If something goes by for a week's period of time, I think the social order starts to get antsy because they're like, what's around the next corner? And the shipwreck again happened in New York. Now, if anybody is keen to go back and listen to Lisa and I's dissertation on the helicopter crash that happened in the Hudson River with the Siemens CEO and how we connected all the steganography back actually with his wife and the FIFA trophy and it being the astrological calendrical prophecy device rather than just a simple trophy, lining up with all sorts of things with the Wolverine comic. Is this starting to get everybody's memory jogged in? And the fact that the helicopter actually here, I'll put this in there again. I'm going to save this image, put this into the I'm going to put this into the chat here. Present image file here. This is the flight path that helicopter took when the Siemens CEO died, allegedly. And you see right up at the top is the Brooklyn Bridge where it turned around, where the incident with the ship happened. And you actually see where the helicopter supposedly crossed over that Brooklyn Bridge. That was the impact point of the Mexican naval vessel, the ceremonial naval vessel that was named after the Aztec emperor. I can't pronounce the name. But if you see the square marker down on the bottom, that's Pier 17. And at that point in time, we were connecting it to Q. Obviously, how can you not with the number 17? But the launch point of the helicopter and the launch point of the ship were the same. They both launched from Pier 17, apparently.
Yeah.
Which means they must have taken a pretty similar route up the Hudson River. So there's an interesting steganography point, number one, if it weren't also for the fact that, remember, we connected the Intrepid Museum along the way, and it was on Pier 88 on the way up the west side of Manhattan Island there. And remember, we were saying the Intrepid Museum was also between 45th and 47th Streets, just like President Trump's presidency. And so there was all these connections, not to mention 88 itself is the number for in spellcasting and my steganography research that signifies time because of the analemma cycles of the moon and the sun, the 365-day cycle of the sun, the 28-day cycle of the moon. They both make a figure 8 pattern in the sky. It's called an analemma, and you put those together, you get 88. And that was only pieced together because of Lisa's insight that she'd put toward me that week with JFK Jr.'s Timex watch that was being re-released called the Intrepid watch. So all of that, I'm just giving you guys all the proper nouns to re-engage your mind a little bit, to, you know, give you a primer for this discussion, because we're talking about some of those points again. We were tying the Wolverine comic, oddly enough, that came out in the summer of 1982, the same year that the Intrepid Museum opened, of which the third installment of that comic released the exact same day as the Intrepid Museum opened on August 3rd of that year, 1982. And we're coming up now on those bookends. Now it's not so far off. Now we're looking at June 1st and August 31st. Those were some bookend dates that Lisa and I were pegging for ourselves for the steganography to look into once we were coming up on these dates. And sure enough, right as we approach it, we get the impact zone again of another bridge crash. Bridges are huge in my research with the age of Leo. Remember the onset of the age of Leo. My argument is that we are all had with the actual age of the zodiac that we're going into. We can go back into this at some other point, but we in the V-Cipher community, I think, have correctly decoded that the astrology calendar is flipped 180 degrees to throw us off, and that we're actually going into the age of Leo rather than the age of Aquarius. And since then, we also have now this new fake Pope Leo, the age of Leo, right? So we have a lot of responses.
Think mirror, and what is above is below, and all those kind of things. If you want to think about kind of like where he's going with the why would it be flipped upside down and all that kind of stuff. Why did they want to confuse us and all that? And Lisa's
become kind of a geek for the Earth grid on that front too. She's actually, sometimes I'm wondering if she's not surpassing my own skills in noticing some of this stuff as it relates to key structures on ley lines, because and it's funny because she actually has very intuitively been following the Empire State Building's Twitter account. And I kid everybody not, I couldn't find the message she sent me. It was either in tweet form, or she either sent me a DM or an email or a text, and we were trying to look before this, but I kid everybody not, she sent me probably the day, 2 days max before the bridge event happened, a screenshot sent from the Empire State Building's account that had the Empire State Building kind of in a viewfinder, if you will, that was looking right through the Brooklyn Bridge, right toward the Empire State Building. And what was this canvassing, right? Sure as shit, we get some distraction events. And what do you think this is all about, Lisa? I'm done with my dissertation on catching the audience back up, but
I don't know.
What do you think about this?
Well, so, you know, the Empire State Building is built where the Waldorf Astoria stood previous, which was our original bank and post office. So I do believe that's a ley line, you know, power force. I also believe that it is that one of the places Tesla stayed.
Oh, good point. I don't know. Well, he stayed at the Tesla's various
He stayed at various hotels because he
New
had
York.
losing, you know, he was broke, and so he'd move from hotel to
Yeah.
hotel. But there was some hotel that he stayed at that some people think was a power source. So it may have something to do with the free energy thing. I don't know. That's kind of a
So
stretch.
here's a more detailed breakdown of Tesla's New York homes. Oh, interesting. East Houston Street in NoHo, 46 and 48. 175 Grand Street. Interesting. Oh, we'll have to look into this. He lived on several places on Fifth Avenue too. But Lisa and I will probably honestly not bore everybody too much with the speculation of the Earth grid buildings. She and I have been kind of tossing around a concept if we can ever get more time to do an additional show that really just there it is. There you go. That was the one you sent me right there.
Yeah.
Bridging the gap was there it is. And so if anybody knows or cares to find out more of why bridges are significant to my research, part of it has to do with ley lines themselves. Lisa, would you look up an image search for me? Because it's probably just quicker.
Just while we're on this, just really quick, because when I looked this up, Empire State Building 8 hours ago, warning to everyone, this was their latest post 8 hours ago. Let's see. It was another like weird bridge one. Where is it? My view every morning.
Interesting. Looking out over the bridge. Yeah, it's beyond the Chrysler building there.
Yep. Over a bridge. I don't know.
Well, the bridge is also the bridge that it's, I think that must be the Washington Bridge that is beyond in the waterscape beyond the Chrysler building. If you look past the pylon and the Chrysler building there, which is the one that everybody sees lit up, the other Art Deco skyline building in New York of note, I think that might be the Washington Bridge across there too. But the ley lines themselves, I've always called the control network that is maybe artificially created, because we've discussed that ley lines are powerful places to put buildings on top of, but also speculated that there may be artificial construction going on underneath the surface with things like the Boring Company, Elon Musk's Boring Company. Why are they digging all these tunnels?
He's talked about it publicly, about, you know, being able to go quickly between cities and all of that.
I contend that there's much more to it than just travel, right? And this is you know, your son probably knows a little bit about this video game coming out for the PS5 this season, next, I think it's in June actually. It's called Death Stranding 2. And Hideo Kojima is the director of these games. Anybody that knows video games knows Hideo Kojima's been around a while, and he's been dropping VSTEG in his video games for as long as I can remember. And he made an artificial the video game of Death Stranding, by the way, I'm convinced the narrative is that you, as the main character that's living through this experience, is living through what Cliff would term as the metempsychoses, the life between life, the shedding of the karma process. And there is an organization in this video game called the Bridges Corp. Pull up that's why I want you to pull up, if you can, pull up the Bridges Corp logo
on YouTube or just
an image search on Google. You'll find it. It's pretty prominent. Just search Death Stranding Bridges Corp, and you'll immediately probably get why I'm looking at this as a responsive VSTEG item to the bridges, the ley lines, the power structures.
Yeah. Hold on, let me share, stop screen, present, share screen. Okay. Very Spider-Man.
There it is. Notice the web. It's very much a web, a spider's web.
It's also very Art Deco.
It's very Art Deco. Exactly. They're very Art Deco.
The United States, like allegedly, the United States, that's what our, like, if you were gonna like say how the United States buildings should be. Like if we had not had the Great Depression, the United States buildings should be Art Deco. That's what our like
Right.
buildings should
It's
look
kind of the natural
like.
progression of the Tartarian architecture or something that
Mhm.
we all talk about, right? And you notice Washington D.C. it's a very large point, but Washington D.C. is the originating locus on the focal point of the spider web.
Okay.
And so ever since this video game, and this is when I was starting to get spooked out a little bit at my own intuitive research process, because I started deeming the ley line network that they must control these buildings with football stadiums and capture energy, harness energy, broadcast energy. I started calling it the DC parasite network. I still use that terminology. I think the DC parasite network is very apropos for describing what's happening here. And bridges are a very metaphysical thing that ships keep crashing into, that we keep getting major events built around in the news, as Lisa is astutely pointing out with the very buildings like the Art Deco Empire State Building. It also makes me wonder how much of the metempsychoses process that these weird sorcerer types are trying to control. How much of the theories out there that are like, the prison planet, where maybe we're in this reincarnative cycle where we can't leave Earth because they've got some sort of control over our reincarnation process. And is the ley line network have anything to do with this? These are all questions. These are suppositions. These are questions. These aren't claims or conclusions or anything. But the steganography lends itself to suggesting the very thing that I'm talking about. And how ancient are these spells? How ancient is this network? Does it go back to Tartaria? Is it part of why we can't remember it?
But this goes to my whole thing about jumping, like that we're trapped in the 4D, and that the plasma that, what's his name? I can see him in my mind. That, when IM was teaching me about the missing Malaysian plane and how maybe
you're talking about Ashton Forbes.
Maybe the military, we don't know, somebody put those little plasma balls around and zappoed that plane, and maybe they zapped it, used plasma balls to zap it to another dimension, and that's how it traveled or disappeared to wherever they ended up, that story. And so then I went down the rabbit hole of like, well, if our DNA is an address or a point on a chart, like an XY, or in a plane,
some sort of coordinate plane,
then could we use the Waldorf Astoria post office box, use our DNA? Could we register our DNA on a blockchain and then be able to use plasma to jump our selves,
our essence, our consciousness, or whatever it is,
consciousness, right? Whatever, out of this 4D, which, because 1D, 2D, 3D, but then add time, which we lock our energy in the dirty fiat dollars, the prison, in time. Could we use the plasma to jump past the 5, or out of, 5 is human, and into the 6, because 3, 6, 9 is, the Tesla, and also the sacred geometry is always 3, 6, 9. There's no 4 or 5 in sacred geometry. So to me, all of that makes sense. And that's what, when Cliff posted the Terrence McKenna video, and said, it's getting weirder.
That video, by the way, was one of my original waking up points back in high school. It's an old video.
96 or something.
Yeah, it was 96, 98, something, when McKenna was still alive. I was lucky enough to come across McKenna's work right at the end of his life, before he passed. And that interview was one of those seminal things back then that I must have found on E-Bombs World, because I don't even think YouTube was around. I was probably using E-Bombs World at the time, and broke my brain a little bit. It contributed to me never doing psychedelics, for the point of I wanted to live through the experience that I am now and experiment with. It's not to say I haven't done mushrooms. I've done plenty of mushrooms, but I haven't done like LSD, or I haven't even done mescaline.
Something that you might lose
I do
control
want to experiment with some point is mescaline, but it's worth watching. If anybody missed that tweet, it will probably catch your mind up quicker than most things will to vibing with where we're headed with this ontology singularity thing that Cliff keeps referring to also, right?
Yeah. I won't play it because it's 24 minutes long, but it's like he talks about getting weirder and weirder, it's mostly this acceleration of time. And what he's talking about is it's like and everyone should watch it and take your own interpretation of it, because that's what this experience is about, is that we're all having our own experience, and we're all taking personal responsibility. We're growing from this, we're growing together, and that's how collective consciousness, we all become more together, is when we all take personal responsibility. But what I did think was really interesting, it looked like his eyeball was popping out of his head there. Ooh.
He's got some buggy eyeballs. Terrence is a funny looking dude.
Like, oh, that was wild when I paused it there. But he says, like, it's not that these physical things are slowing down, or that we can measure in this physical world, or slowing down or speeding up, but it's more that, and we're all kind of experiencing this next part, but it's more that because we have these things like technology, or even things like washer and dryer, because so many things can happen in a minute, an hour, a day, we're able to have so many experiences and have, because we can fly to another city or state, and watch TV and learn about a whole nother language, where before, without TV and a phone in our hand and whatever, like, you could have never experienced all that. So that speeds up time, because we're able to experience so many things in a shorter amount of time. So that's the concept of time speeding up so fast. But I would encourage everybody to watch this and just kind of have that kind of, but and then he talks about the kind of the consequences of that, like, then that is that, what happens to humanity when time speeds up. That means things are happening faster,
So, and this is kind of a concept that's advanced that I don't know when the audience is going to be ready for this, but these books here by A.P. Levick, these are nice summaries on the way to understanding the time phenomenon.
Yeah.
Okay. It's a 2-part series. These are really, really advanced studies, and they mostly reference Nikolai Kozyrev's work, along with some other people like Michael Persinger, who actually Cliff's mentioned this year. He's mentioned Michael Persinger's work quite a bit.
Okay.
Persinger's work is outlined in A.P. Levick's kind of textbook material here. And it goes through processes of describing Nikolai Kozyrev's work. Nikolai Kozyrev, for anybody not initiated in who he is, was a Soviet scientist who was probably the premier modern day, figure that we could point to in our most recent past that kind of figured it out, what this time is. And he treated time kind of like Nikola Tesla treated the ether, as a substance, as something that you could manipulate. It wasn't necessarily this duration tick mark on a clock. It was something that was malleable. And the experiments classically made his constituents mad. Just, not mad like angry mad as in crazy.
Crazy.
And the more they engaged in these time manipulation experiments, which they very much proved you could manipulate the substance of time, it started to make people batty. It started to make them wonky, cuckoo. And I can't say that that's maybe not what we're experiencing right now.
Right.
People whose minds aren't really tuned in to that even as a possibility. It's just happening to them. And I kind of feel for them, honestly, the normies that
that's
are
their taking their clothes off in the airport and losing their these little gray-haired old ladies having to be drug out of the courtroom because they're losing their mind, and they can't even they're being interviewed on the street. Well, why are you so upset? What are you so mad about with Trump? And they're like, I don't know, but I'm just here, ripping my shirt off in the middle of the street. They're just crazy pants. Just
it almost harkens to, and I don't, Jenny, if you're watching, I'm sorry if I'm misquoting some of your older insights on silver and some of the tarot readings you've even done with Bix, but Jenny Constantine, Jenny Moonstone, however you know her, has spoken pretty in a SaVant manner, if I might borrow a term from my own handle online, about the consciousness of silver and how that would affect these times, right? And that it would start to, I mean, this is kind of where their discussions, if I recall, came from, like the Silver Warriors and stuff. We would start to become the Silver Warriors ourselves because we would hold that vibration and that frequency. Those that tuned into silver sooner, and those that didn't tune into silver would kind of be lacking in the time shift process.
That makes me think of, I just saw a real quick clip of an interview on Tucker, and they were talking about, Trump just announced the big announcement yesterday with Hegseth was that they're going to be funding and doing the Golden Dome, right?
Yeah, everything's golden. Yeah.
And they're putting their, supposedly.
This is a play on words for the Iron Dome, everybody, that Israel probably just has a fireworks show for, but that's what it's in reference to.
It's supposed to be an anti-missile thing, whatever, and that the U.S. is going to have this Golden Dome. Well, there was. No, wait a minute. That's the CIA one. This is, where's this interview with Tucker and this lady? And now I can't find it.
Oh, so you're not even referencing the Sean Ryan interview. This is another one.
No. This is just today. This is Tucker and this lady, and he says she's talking about like China and an EMP and them using, you remember the balloons flying over us and whatever?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
And that when Biden came in, all of that was halted, and that is the Golden Dome to like protect us from this. Why can I not find this? Oh, this makes me so angry. Hold on. Let me see if I think I sent it to the Telegram group too. So I should be able to pull it off there. If you're not on the Telegram group, go join the Telegram group. When I find stuff, I try to send it there right away. Golden Dome is a game changer. Tom put something on there. Let's see if this is it. No, that's not it.
The Golden Dome, while you're looking for that, has always, by the way, reminded me of the Anunnaki story specifically, which are Elohim, Anunnaki, same difference to me. But the Zechariah Sitchin stuff always pointed to the slavery system of the ancient world and, the original impetus of the Jews being enslaved, let's say, if that's how it went down, that they needed gold to put into the atmosphere, to pepper into the atmosphere, almost like the stratospheric aerosol injections that we get blanketed with today. And what does that have to do with kind of a call to what was happening in the ancient world too?
Okay, here it is. It says, why is China, MJ Truth Ultra shared this. And it's talking about, I believe there was a plan to detonate a major EMP nuke over America. And he goes into this is his idea. He says, there was a plan. There was, the 16-year plan. Hillary was supposed to win.
Yeah.
Then Trump got in, whatever. Obama deliberately weakened U.S. Space defense. Trump never talked about Space Force. But then when he got in, Space Force was like the first thing he did.
Yeah.
And
probably
so,
just announced something that was laying dormant since the 80s, in my opinion, or sooner. But
maybe, but he never talked about it during his run. And then it was the first thing he did. And that's because, so this is, like I said, this guy, he's a great guy, MJ, Truth Ultra. And so he goes through and does this whole thing. An EMP attack would be just as deadlier it could be than, nuclear. Q doesn't have to be your cup of coffee, but there's lots of evidence, blah, blah, blah. He created Space Force. Then he says,
June he's got quite the timeline. This is just the 2020s he's going up through here.
Yeah. So he says he announced his intention of Space Force, directed DOD to begin the process of establishing it as a new military branch, signed the Space Force directive, signed the EO, coordinating national resilience to electromagnetic pulses. I didn't even know that was a thing. Then he signed the NDAA, which is the 2020, which I've read and talked about for a million gazillion times. And then they talk about the Space Force thing. Then they go on talking about space dominance. Okay. Then there's this interview.
So the threats to the grid and to the lives of 350 million Americans are completely real and in some sense imminent. Like we know this is going to happen at some point. So the federal response hardening the grid changed when Biden got elected?
Yeah. And this is what is really hard to accept. And it's very similar actually to what happened with the border wall, which is here you have two policies, the EMP executive order that President Trump was the first president to ever direct all parts of government to work together to be sure that the American people were protected from intentional EMP attack after decades of knowing that our primary adversaries were all considering it, training for it, had weapons programs designed to do this. And by the way, I mean, before we get to Biden, the primary delivery mechanism in all of those tests was a high altitude balloon.
Really?
When we then have China, a primary adversary who we know have talked in their training sessions and their training manuals about using high altitude balloons to deliver this kind of an EMP device and have done tests where it's the same exact payload as the high altitude balloons that were recovered. And then you have Russia. I'm sure you remember last year, Washington worked itself into quite a justified, in my opinion, state about, the quote unquote space nuke, right? Putting a nuclear weapon into orbit on a satellite. And at the time, the media made it out like this was maybe a danger. And even if it was a danger, it's only a danger to other satellites, right? And it would get in the way of your car's GPS. And, maybe it would be problematic for the military. And so we should pay attention to it. But they definitely downplayed its impact on anyone on the ground, right? And yet we know from past Russian trials and the SA-3 satellite that the North Koreans sent over, that this kind of delivery is the exact same setup as an anti-satellite weapon. You put a nuclear weapon on a satellite headed up from the south, where we have virtually no detection set up. And you don't even get the 22 minutes that you would get with a solar flare. It just comes completely out of the blue, and there's no preparation whatsoever. And in general, in the military theory of these adversaries, it's a multi-pronged attack, right? That's the initial, you take out you send everybody into chaos and you take out their ability to communicate with one another. And then it's followed by whatever comes next. And for us to know, to have seen that in, war games in at least two of our largest adversaries, both Iran and Russia, have included in their training simulations. It's in 3 of their manuals, China, Russia, and Iran. Russia, we know, is putting a nuclear weapon in orbit. China's sending the space balloons. The high altitude balloons have already come across our own territory. North Korea, three-way attack simulation, but all 3 were successful. Clearly, this is on the minds of our adversaries, and it's an imminent danger. Certainly, the vulnerability, the area in which we are most vulnerable for maximum casualties and impact. And yet, President Trump was the first president to say across different parts of government, who sometimes have a hard time talking to one another, I want you to work together to make sure that the American people are protected from this. And by the way, it's not even that expensive in the big scheme of, government spending. To do it really well, the cost estimate was $2 billion, which, we've just sent another $100 billion to Ukraine. So then Biden takes office, and frankly, in my mind, just inconceivably revokes that. And in the same way that he says with the wall, both of those, to my mind, are initiatives that are already underway, that are designed to protect the American people's security and homeland.
President's only is to protect.
And he reversed for.
And why reverse? And the reason that interview is talking about, taking down the power grid so that we can't communicate, and then they send something else, because on the heels.
Who is that lady, by the way? Did we name her? I've never seen her before.
I don't know who that is. I could ask Grok maybe, but this is coming on the heels of China's foreign ministry publicly demanding the United States abandon its Golden Dome missile defense protection system.
Let's put some stuff together here, Lisa, because this is making me think. Okay, so
yeah.
We began this discussion saying, obviously, the auto pen, the fake Biden pretendency. I think most people that are really critical in both of our communities would probably agree that it was a fake presidency, and it was probably President Trump's dark presidency, where he had to go back and basically be head of the military for real so that these things could be instituted. And why are even people in some people in our communities going back and saying, oh my God, Biden's got cancer? Well, wasn't it agreed that it wasn't Biden the whole time anyway? Why are we even talking about this? Another distraction. But also for the fact that at the beginning of this kind of thread that you and I just touched on is that these announcements that are military in nature, they only get made in arrears. They don't announce things that are being worked on. They announce things that are already installed. So to me, if they're talking about the Golden Dome technology, whatever this is, it's already something that's up there. Similar to Space Force just being a formality to announce it, the infrastructure in all likelihood goes back to the Reagan administration and before, which harkens itself to the Star Wars program, which is our Earth defense grid up there. And you can go look on YouTube, everyone. They did a State of the Union address back when Reagan was in office. Reagan announced Star Wars, and it was this computer-generated graphical thing where they showed the lasers, the sound technology that was up there to dismantle nukes. And if he was announcing it at a State of the Union address, not State of the Union, it wasn't state. What is the address called when they're sitting in the Oval Office?
Yeah, that's State of the Union, right?
Is it still State of the Union? It's just not in front of Congress.
Oh.
I thought State of the Union had to be in front of Congress. When whatever it's called, I can't think of the term. When the president addresses the nation from the Oval Office desk, this is the nature of what that was with Reagan. But if he was announcing that they were working on it then, my conclusion from just a second ago would suggest that it was already installed even then. Now, let's go split brass tacks apart here, or golden tacks. And let's say, if that's the case, the Golden Dome is already up there. What is the Golden Dome? We know silver is the world's greatest conductor, but gold is the greatest insulator. Is it possible that some sort of stratospheric layer of gold particulates are being sprayed alongside the harmful things in the chemtrails? Are there good chemtrails and bad chemtrails? Because let's think about this. Maybe the Chinese balloon was an actual forthright attack, and it was just a big fizzled out nothing burger because we already had the Golden Dome maybe installed, and so we didn't actually get an EMP attack. What do you think about that?
Well, so I actually, in Canon's science fair project, one of our findings was that the iodine, when it touched the silver, it created iodized silver reaction, and it created a solid. It solidified the milk because of a iodized silver reaction.
Oh, so a coin was inside of a milk jug or something?
We were using this silver to try to preserve the milk, to see if it would make the milk not spoil as quickly.
I see.
And he interviewed Bix, and it was really cute. And I have a cute little video of it. It was really cute. But one of the side effects, things we weren't expecting, was that when the iodine hit the milk, because one of the testing things was using iodine to show the color. Anyway, it's the whole thing.
And this is when the silver was already in the milk.
Silver was already in the milk. The coin was already in the milk, and that was when the rain was it rain? Oh no, it was the fog. Remember the weird fog?
Yes.
And then it was landing on people's pools, and it wasn't going away. Well, so we were Googling this stuff, like why is the milk getting thick, and why why was it solidifying? Well, there's this iodized silver. I think I'm saying that right. We ended up printing this Google find thing of this chemical reaction of the iodine and the silver, and it created like this solid particle. And so I sent this to Cliff, and I was like, hey, I think they are putting silver. I think they're chemtrailing silver. I think it was a good guy, or I don't think
it brought a new possibility into your awareness.
There's a possibility, yes, that it may have been a good guy effort to try to heal some people after some of the jabs, to do a silver treatment to people, because it could have been silver in some of the spray, possibly. And
possibly, right? Like these are all just like, I'm only thinking out loud here kind of a thing, as are you, I think, right?
A wild what if, but it could have been a silver treatment. Because
even Cliff, Lisa, like this is years back. I've got an autodidactic memory for whatever reason. I just remember shit that people say, but he was actually speculating a long time back that there could be a benevolent reason that the chemtrails existed, even for detection of space alien craft. Like what he was saying, what if, because they're up there now, when a UFO craft crosses the barrier of whatever's being sprayed up there, it collects and attracts whatever particulates are up there and paints the vehicle with something that's responsive, so we can get it on radar and maybe even track it, and therefore was potentially,
maybe that's why it's blue rain now too.
Right. I've heard about this. Oh, AJ Greer. There you go. I've heard about this blue rain. I've seen videos of it. I haven't looked into it very much. Have you?
I haven't looked into it much, but that could also be, you know how you were seeing RFK put the blue methylated blue,
Yeah,
or
methylene blue.
whatever,
Yeah.
methylene blue in his drink. Maybe it was to show like it's not a danger to you, it's inert, but you're going to start seeing blue rain. But maybe it was to identify or detect something. I don't know. I just don't know.
Mind
It's
goes
very
wild.
It's wild. It's very interesting.
I wish I did know, because
Lots of
this is the
questions.
fog of war where it's just like, you know, you almost go insane some days trying to figure it all out. But
I know we've got to wrap up here pretty soon. I did want to wish everybody a very happy Memorial Day weekend. It's unusually early this year. And we did want to talk about the VSTEG around that a little bit before we do. It's going to be on May 25th.
which, if you factorialize, is 5 times 5.
Yeah. Which gives us 3 5s, which is a JFK number.
Or if you include the 25, which people typically do, you get 5 5s.
Oh, wow. I didn't think about the year too.
25 for the day, 5 times 5, and 25 for the 25 for the day, 25 for the year. So you got, if you factorialize all of it, you get 5 5 5 5 5 5 5s, which is interesting.
Yeah.
Potentially.
And that's a significant like VSTEG day, you know, and so,
or we'll at least be looking out for VSTEG type events happening by way of that spell casting marker. Yeah.
On Memorial Day. So,
well, do you want to, you even had some speculations in our pre-show about silver, and I don't want to take your, do you want to talk about some of what that is? Because I'm
going to be having Andy on. We're trying to work out times and stuff, but we'll be having Andy Scheckman join us. And my mom had some really great insight, because I was like, she was seeing articles, I'm seeing articles where they're like, oh, investors are starting to decouple the idea of even using silver for investment at all because of such low price, you know, in silver. So no one should, you know, this whole idea of like,
because they haven't gotten yield from their investments in a long period of time, something like that.
No one should look at silver for investments at all. And it's like, it's almost like, don't throw me in the briar patch. Oh no, don't throw me in the briar patch. You know, I mean, it's a little thou dost protest too much kind of thing. So I can't wait to have Andy on and get his thoughts on it. Kind of see what he thinks, because Cliff's still calling for $600 silver. So
we're getting down to the wire on these trigger points being what they are. We've already passed the $100,000 marker. We've even heard Cliff pontificate on where we're at with the three disbanded or rejected monetary systems that the public would onerously reject.
Right. And now we've seen that ridiculous genius stablecoin.
Oh, right.
Ridiculous. Sean and I did a show on that yesterday. If you haven't seen that, watch that. It's half on my show and half on his show. And he pulls up the Genius Act. Let me tell you, you don't have to be a genius to see that that's a bunch of crap. I mean, no way are people going to sign on to that. No.
Yeah.
No. Anyway,
well, may we live in interesting times.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. Well, thanks for joining me on this. Thanks to everybody in the live chat. I appreciate all of you. And if you're watching this later, make sure you leave a comment below. And if you'd like to support our work, you can follow us on YouTube. Or no, we are on YouTube. Like and subscribe here. If you're on YouTube, follow us on Twitter or X, and you can always join my Patreon. I really appreciate that. It's $1 a show a month, so $20, and I really appreciate that. That helps me get on the road so that I can meet you and hug your neck and get out there. And we are having a meetup coming up in June, the weekend after Father's Day in Metamora, Illinois. There's all the information at clintwestwood.net. I will get that up on my website as well at litecoinlisa.net.
And it's good that that's a land-based everybody that wants to come to that can drive if they want to, because
Oh yeah, it's in the middle of the country.
One of the
Very
things
centrally located. Sorry.
Was it Joni Patry? Joni Patry saying, everyone, we've already seen one. The summer of shipwrecks, for whatever reasons, upon us. And keep in mind that Lisa and I are keeping our eyes on June 1st through August 31st as these bookend days for the Intrepid ship. Everything's going on the Hudson River. Something's cooking. So I'm just public service announcement. Take care of yourselves out there this summer.
And that goes with Uncle Cliff's data with military action.
Yeah. His release language specifically for June into July is all military based. He's color coding now, very helpfully, I might add, his release language with his new charting that he's doing. And he's color coding the various types of emotional outbursts that are happening in military is one of those that we're going to see soon, apparently.
And it just happens to be gold colored.
Yeah, I made it gold colored. Yeah.
He made it gold colored. Yeah. Anyway, just saying. Gotta love that man. All right. You guys have a great day. Love to you all. And we will see you tomorrow back here at the new normal. Take care. Bye.
Much love.